Not too much to go, and we are almost there. We are flying through. So we've just covered direction. And now we're going to move on to a little bit about lash mapping and eye shape. So this is the bit that can be quite hard, but as I've mentioned, practice makes perfect. And I just wanted to show you a little visual, which you can see here, of the difference it makes by changing up the direction. So in the previous slide, we were talking about 12 o'clock and 3 and 9 o'clock. And this is the kind of difference that you can achieve by literally adjusting the direction of your lashes. What I tend to do is when I'm lashing with my lash maps, my longest length sits above the iris. So I'll always start short, my longest will sit above the iris, and then I'll go down in length, just because those inner and outer lashes need less weight and less length. Otherwise, they tend to hang down, they tend to twist, they tend to pull the eye down and give the eye the illusion that it's kind of downturn when it isn't. But even by having my longest length in the middle, if I just adjust the direction, it gives the illusion of a cat eye without necessarily having to put like my longer 11s, 12s, 13s on those outers. So hopefully that makes sense. If any part of this theory, online theory, doesn't make sense, jot down the questions, drop us a message, give us a call, or we can talk about it if you've booked in for the practical element. So you can see in these pictures, we've got this one down here and the bottom left-hand corner, which is our 12 o'clock. So if we are pointing our lashes up at 12 o'clock across the eye, we can open, we can lift. And then if we start angling out, again, the first half of the eye is always 12 o'clock. We do not want to be angling out in the inner sections because it's just going to look odd. So I sometimes, when I'm doing my lash map, like to just draw a line down the center of my lash map from the pupil. So I just know the first section is always 12 o'clock, and then I start to angle. So I'm going to do 12, 1, 2. And by the time I get to the outers, I'm literally angling at a 3 o'clock. And by doing those two different techniques in angles, you can create two completely different looks. I mean, if you look at those pictures, it's one of my lovely friends, Alana. I mean, for me personally, I think the 12 o'clock is lovely kind of for your everyday. And then you've got your 3 and 9, which just gives you like a sexy, foxy cat eye look, which I personally love. Eye shapes and lash mapping. These give you an idea of the lash maps that I would use if a client has this eye shape. When we go back to the eye shapes element of this manual, where we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 was talking about upturn, 2 was talking about downturn, 3 was wide set, 4 was close set, for example. So if you have a client in, and I just wanted to simplify styling for you here, that has, for example, an upturn eyes, I have given you a lash map. So it takes the guesswork out. So if someone has upturn eyes, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I always like to start with a C in the inner corners. Let's say this client has upturn, but her eyes are slightly closed. So we're going to start with our C. We're going to go into a slightly stronger curl in the midsection, which is going to lift that midsection. But we want to make sure when we come to the outers, because it is upturned, that we're using a relaxed curl to bring that down. So you'll see here I've used a C and then a B on the very end to lift, to bring down that upturn. Someone just has a slight upturn, a C curl is going to be perfect. But if they do have a very exaggerated upturn, a B curl is actually going to work really well to bring that down. And actually, if we can go ever so slightly longer with a B curl, it's going to bring it down even more, but not too long that it then gives the illusion of a downturn. And talking of downturn, let's move on to downturn. So this is where the client, the bottom of the eye sits lower than the line as we measure, and it can almost just make people look a little bit sad. So what we want to do is lift. So again, always start with a C curl, and then we can go up to maybe a CC if we want to open the eyes a little bit. And then on the outers, we're going to use a D and a short curl. And that is really going to lift and give the illusion that they don't have downturned eyes. I mean, if a client has really open eyes, you're still going to want to lift ever so slightly on the outer by using a D curl, but the rest of the eye is going to be a C, because we don't want to open the eyes even more by using a decurl across the whole of the eye. And in terms of angle, with a downturn, we are going to angle towards 12 o'clock on those outers. So a downturn generally with 12 o'clock across the whole eye. With an upturn, we are angling a 3 and 9 to bring that down. So if ever you're styling, you've got clients in, print this manual out, have the manual in front of you. What I tend to do if I really want to produce like an incredible set, sometimes I get clients in for a consultation initially. So let's say a client is getting married. I'll get them in, we'll do a patch test, we'll do a consultation, I'll take a picture of their face, and I'll send them away, and I'll do all of this in the background. And when they come back, I'll kind of explain what I've done. However, if you aren't necessarily doing the patch test and they're not having a consultation before the treatment, then you are going to sit there, do your consultation, take a picture, just go and say to your client, I'm just going to go away and I'm just going to have a little look and style your face, and I'll come back and we'll discuss. And again, that is what takes you from here to here in terms of moving yourself into artist category within eyelash extensions. So we've got wide set and close set eyes. So wide set eyes sit further apart. So what we want to do is start our length earlier. So usually, obviously, I would have my longest length above the iris, but on this occasion, I would start it slightly earlier. So I'd do a few 7s, few 8s, few 9s, few 10s, and I'm starting my length earlier on, and then I've got shorter lengths as I'm coming towards the outers, and I am sticking to a 12 o'clock angle. If someone has wide set eyes, I do not want to be doing a 3 or a 9 angle, because it is going to give the illusion that their eyes are even further apart than they actually are. And then if we're looking at the opposite, close set eyes. So close set eyes, a client's eyes sit closer together. What we're going to do here is more lower length, and then we're going to add the longer length to the outers. We don't want to go too far out, because what we're doing is angling out, which gives the illusion of length. So a couple more eye shapes before we move on to the next element. Open eyes. So just say in your head, obviously without reading, if someone's got open eyes, what curl do you think we're going to do on open eyes? Bearing in mind D gives lift and a C curl relaxes. Open eyes, we're going to do a C curl. C curl, B curl. What have I done on here? Yeah, kind of a combination. So I would say a B curl or a C curl are perfect for open eyes. If someone has protruding eyes and they're really big, generally you're going to probably want a B curl. If someone just has open eyes where you see the white underneath the iris, you're going to use a C curl, works really well. And we're going to do 12 o'clock direction, and we're going to start angling out towards the outers to elongate those open eyes. And then sleepy eyes. If someone has sleepy eyes, we want to open those eyes. We're going to do a 12 o'clock angle. Always start with a C curl, and then we're going to move into CC and then a D. Depending on upturn, downturn will determine what you're going to do on the outer. But just remember, closed eyes, we want curlier extension to give lift. So CC or a D, but C curl always on those inners. And then we've got our almond shape. So almond can handle 12 o'clock direction or 3 and 9, and can handle most curls. So it'll kind of depend if they've got big almond eyes, C curl, sleepy almond eyes, CC and D curl. But in terms of direction, generally, most directions and curls will work on a typical almond eye shape. And I've just put a little caveat in here. Please note these lash maps are a guide and will not necessarily work for everyone. You will need to take into consideration the face shape, the look the client is after, and how the natural eyelashes sit, in addition to the eye shape and the natural eyelashes. Remember, if the natural eyelashes are super curly, then the curl you are using will look stronger, so you need to bear that in mind. If your client has straight naturals, the curl you will use will look weaker. So next we are going to move on to layering, and then we haven't got too much left of the theory. So well done if you're still awake and you've got this far.